Welcome to Jacobean House Histories. In our last episode, George Plowright was pressed into the army against his will. In this episode, we're going to find out what happened when Sir Rowland St John, Thomas Bacon and George Plowright made their cases in the Star Chamber.
Both sides put together papers setting out their cases for the court. Sibthorpe prepared George's paper, which was called Circumstances and Probable Reasons that Mr. Bacon had a hand to have pressed George Plowright for a soldier. Sibthorpe wrote that as long ago as 1635, Bacon had told him that he would have no peace till he had rid the town of Plowright. Sibthorpe asked why George was pressed into the army when there was a younger constable from Burton Latimer also at the muster, except that the younger constable was a tenant of Mr. Bacon. Surely this was a conspiracy. Sibthorpe went on to set out how Burton Latimer had been unfairly ordered to provide more men to the press than other towns in the Huxlow Hundred. He wrote, 3 soldiers being sent from our town, and but 2 from Findon, 2 from Earthlingborough, and none from Barton Seagrave, which he describes as a common receptacle of disorderly persons. Sibthorpe also presented to the court this petition to support George's good character. It is signed by no less than 28 important men from across the county, including 7 clergymen.
Sir Rowland and Thomas Bacon set out their case. Their paper was called The True Cause and Proceedings in the Pressing of one George Plowright, Constable of Burton Latimer in the county of Northants, to have been sent as a soldier for the Northern Service. Sir Rowland was clear that he had no knowledge of Mr. Bacon, who was in any case at Long Buckby and so too far away to have influenced his decision to press George into the army. Sir Rowland wrote that he resented his reputation being called into question and thought Plowright's accusation was impudent. It was, he said, by ancient precedent that Plowright, having failed in his duty to provide able-bodied men, was himself pressed. However, said Sir Rowland, later Plowright was excused duty and another man took his place.
The case was heard in the highest court of the land, the Star Chamber, on the 17th of May, 1639. Now, whether it was because Robert Sibthorpe wrote of probable cause, while Sir Rowland had written of the true cause, and so was more definite, or whether it was because Lord Lieutenant William Cecil attended the court in support of his deputy, Sir Rowland, we can't be certain. But the court of the Star Chamber found as follows.
The occasion of Plowright being pressed was caused wholly through his own default, being employed as constable to press soldiers for that service, which trust he abused by pressing some strangers that came to that town and other unfit men for that employment. Star Chamber Findings, 17th of May, 1639.
Sir Rowland and Thomas Bacon were both released. Poor George Plowright was ordered to be taken from the chamber and to be locked in the Gatehouse prison in Westminster. George Plowright was ordered to make an apology to the Star Chamber and to publicly plead forgiveness from Sir Rowland at the next meeting of the Court of Assizes in Northampton. He was also ordered to pay £13 to cover Sir Rowland and Bacon's costs. That's the equivalent of about £10,000 today.
Some days later, George pleaded clemency on the court. This is the letter he wrote to the Lords of His Majesty's Most High Privy Council. He had, he said, been impoverished through pursuing Mr. Bacon in the matter of the ship money in the Star Chamber over the last 3 years. The Lords accepted to mitigate some of his costs. It was later still, after posting this bond for £100, to be redeemed on condition that he would indeed plead the forgiveness of Sir Rowland in public at Northampton Assizes, that he was released. He had been in the Gatehouse prison for just over 3 weeks.
On reflection, it's clear that Robert Sibthorpe believed George being pressed into the army had been a Puritan conspiracy. Sibthorpe also thought that he had enough political influence to oppose Puritans in Northamptonshire. However, he had underestimated the power that Sir Rowland St John had, and so the case had been lost. The court chose not to absolve Bacon, and that left a stain on the character of the lord of the manor. But it was poor George Plowright who was the real victim. He was the one who had been locked in the gatehouse, was fined, and suffered loss of reputation. And all because he'd been caught up in the feud between Bacon and Sibthorpe.
What happened to George Plowright after 1639 we do not know, as the record runs dry. His death is not listed in the Burton Latimer parish records. Perhaps his legacy is that his story has survived to be told. So we hope that when you're next passing Jacobean House and you look up and read the name of George Plowright written there in the stone, you'll call to mind this remarkable tale of the honest constable of Burton Latimer.